Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hindsight. I'm Vani from Kalari Capital, and I'm truly delighted today to host Mabel Chacko, who is not only a founder and someone I find inspiring, but someone who's also a friend. And it's wonderful to have her today with us. She's the co founder and COO of Open, a neobanking platform that gives Indian small businesses one place to handle all their banking payments and accounting. I'm excited truly to speak with her about the founding of Open and what did she and her co-founders see that others missed, and more importantly, the behind the scenes decisions that only make sense in hindsight to how they meaningfully contributed to their success. So, Mabel, it's a real pleasure to have you with us and welcome to this platform.
Thank you for having me, Vani. It's really a dream come true for me to have this interaction with you.
So, Mabel, I want to go back to the beginning. Every founder starts with an idea or a hypothesis, and that takes its own shape. Some things pivot, some things remain intact. So, for you, from the initial startup hypothesis, what has remained intact and what has evolved with time?
So when we started Open, it was a lot around, we wanted to change the way banking happens for SMEs in India. So I remember me and Ajisha, we were, thinking about this idea, and uh, we were still in our roles at Citrus Pay and PayU in those days, and we were saying that we want to create a bank for businesses. Next day we woke up and we were like, RBI hai, license nahi milega. What the hell are you talking about? So then we were like, researching on the market. So one of the problem statements we used to often hear from the customers we used to interact with in our roles was that the payment gateways are solving the problem for the online collection, but a lot of their money inflows were coming directly to the bank account. It was offline. How do you go about solving that? And accounting of all of these things happen on another disjointed accounting platform that has got no visibility into what's happening in the bank unless and until some finance professional or a CA goes and does the reconciliation. So business owner was always blindsided on which way his business was going, how much money he truly has, and we wanted to solve that. Now that has remained constant in whatever we have built. The format have changed. We started out as a new bank, and then obviously it became went on to become digital banking for businesses, then powering digital banking transformation for some of the most leading banks in India. So the format has changed over years. It's almost 9 years of doing open right now. So over 9 years, yeah, there have been pivots, there have been parallel strategies, there have been revenue models that we thought would work but didn't work, and then we made something else, and we had a couple of revenue models out there. That's how the evolution always happened. But yeah, we still hold true to the hypothesis of changing the way SMEs interact with their finances. That continues even in the AI era that we are in right now.
So your hypothesis didn't need significant hard pivots. It's but incrementally learning about the market. Now the first thing after the idea is really the people, the team, the co-founders, and in your case, the co-founders are also family members. So maybe the how that came about, but secondly, what works and what doesn't work in that scenario.
So me, Anish, and Ajish have been founders even before together. Though I've done two startups with Anish even before I got married to him and became a family. Ajish came into our equation in our third startup, and that's a startup that was a payment gateway which got acquired by Citrus Pay. And thereon, we have constantly have the habit of once a bug bites you, it keeps biting you, right? So we don't settle into salaried jobs. The bug kept biting, and when once Citrus got acquired by PU, we were very clear that we don't want to build a corporate career out there. We really want to start up again. So that's how me and Ajish came up together. And then this time round, we were working on a domain that was not our core strength, finance as a domain. So we wanted someone who really knew finance really well. And that's how we spoke to Dina. She was one of the few CFOs I knew in person. So I reached out to her with the idea, and that's how Dina came into our equation as a co-founder. Now, good things, bad things. I would say a lot of good because trust is the base of any founding relationship, co-founder relationship of any relationship, but particularly when you are co-founders. So that is sorted when you are working with family. But also, somewhere it's not limited to that alone. It's somewhere also about finding who is going to do what, clearly defining, your roles. Know that I'm someone who's going to look at marketing and operations and HR. Dina is someone who's going to look at finance. So in each of our domains, we have clear strengths that we lead, and we don't step into each other's domains, and we trust the instincts that the leader of that particular function takes up. So somewhere that is something that eased out for Dina to join us into as a founding team. She often gets asked by VCs that there's this family business, and then you came in as a co-founder. How is this? So this is what she normally uses to answer it. And then the flip side of it is there is no working hours. Your work life, your family life, everything is the same.
Yeah,
It didn't bother us so far, because me and Ajish, we have been always ideating for a very, very long time, like almost 18 years now.
yeah.
So that's how our life has been. We don't remember a life before that.
Mm.
Things did become a little curious when Ajish got married and Vandana came into the picture. And she used to sit and, every dinner table conversation, these people are just talking about work. What is wrong with these people? We somehow successfully converted a doctor into an entrepreneur in the entire process.
Yeah,
And Vandana became a, startup entrepreneur.
yeah.
But then, yeah, I mean, I don't think we regret it. Work is equal to life. It's a perfect work life balance. Yes, now that we have kids, it is a challenge that they need our time. But I don't think any of us regret any of our decisions.
Mm. So I have a different question then. When you have such a strong aligned team at the top, which is I agree with you, is a huge benefit. There's enough other frictions and tensions in the outside world. But when you have to scale the company and when you have to build a large business like you have, then building the rest of the organization for them to feel empowered and part of the inner circle, how do you transform the culture to do that? Because all of you know each other so well, have worked each other for so long, you can complete each other's sentence. But what about the other people that come into the organization? How did you navigate that?
Yes, that was a challenge we definitely faced. But then, here's what with the confidence that we gave back to our team, that decisions are not made in the bedroom or over dinner table conversations or coffee table conversations for that matter. We put in a lot of effort as founders to identify who in the team is showing ownership. The moment someone starts showing ownership, that okay, I'll take care of this, I'll take care of marketing, I'll do this. Let me talk about, go and find out about what's happening on the customer side. Once they start showing that confidence, we started giving more ownership to these individuals who came in through the journey of open. Told them that yes, you go ahead, I'll be with you along with on the sidelines as a founder. You can lead that function. When we, especially when we were getting a HR head, I was very clear I didn't want someone who was going to talk about timings and all the typical HR jargon. So I would have interviewed so many of them, but was always waiting for someone who was a little people first. And here comes this lady, and she tells me that you have to let me give me the liberty to call this function what I want. I'm going to be speaking about the people. I'll always be for the people. While you are my boss, you should be okay for me to have a neutral view on, or give a third person view on whatever decisions you guys are taking. If you're game for it, I'm up for it. So that was Priyanka for us, and she continues to lead that function today. And it's when people show ownership, you back it up, give them more and more, power to go ahead and execute. And once they see that, they have a free hand at things, it's not always founder driven, or a family driven kind of a thing, then they also, play along and they take it up as their own. They become the CEO of their particular division.
Function. Yeah. So, Mabel, we talked about team idea. Of course, there's always this question, is there a market for whatever it is that we are doing? And one is you have to convince yourself there is a market, but then there's a lot of jargon to convincing investors that there is a market, right? So, how did you, when you jumped into this idea, how formally did you think about market size, TAM, SAM, all those are acronyms, but how did you think about the market size? And in different phases of the company, how did you articulate that to investors, which is where oftentimes founders struggle a little bit. So, how did you ace that?
I've also struggled on it for a very long time with my all my previous stints as an entrepreneur. I was either way too early, or I ran out of capital too soon, burned too much, or didn't have enough money left. The runway became very short for us in our previous stints as entrepreneurs. So one thing was clear with the founders, with all of us, that we wanted to solve that as a we wanted to solve a problem that was real, that was now. It was not, it's going to be something that
Missionary sale,
in
yeah.
3 days, 3 years later, it would be a problem, or 5 years later, it would be a problem. This was important for us because we burnt our hands in doing NFC, building NFC in India in 2010 when there were not even smartphones available. So this was something that we were very sure that it has to be a problem now, and it has to be a problem that solves for a very large use case of people, and not just someone who is an e-commerce seller, who is just an online seller, but should be mass audience, should be benefiting from what we are able to build. So those were our two primary criteria. So deciding to do this approach of trying to solve how business finance works through banking as a route. So using your current account and your banking channels as a format, and then trying to see how big a size of it is there. So when we were trying to do this, we were calling it a neobank. In those days there were practically no neobanks in India,
Hmm.
so we had a lot of convincing to do when we are telling neobank for businesses to investors. But then what worked for us was the problem was real. Plus, in global markets, it was being adapted in similar models. Banks, fintechs, regulators were working in similar models in US and European markets successfully. So those were the two things that worked to our benefit. And then, yeah, going back to your question on how pivot or something else. But another thing came to my mind right now is that when we started building this, it was for SMEs, for the end user. But somewhere down the line, the opportunity came to build this for the banks in
Hmm.
India. Our first, contract, the first bank that actually for us to do neo banking in India, we need a bank
Hmm.
at the back, and that first contract was with ICICI Bank. We went live with ICICI Bank thinking, okay, maybe 5, 10, or maybe 50 people or 100 customers would, start using it. But then somewhere down the line, ICICI started pushing this as their, through their sales channels, and we got 1,500 customers in one day,
Wow.
and we were like, wow. So that is the power of channels, and that was not something that we planned for before, or we knew it's going to work. It was something that happened along the journey, and then it just changed the way the company grew eventually and exponentially post that.
So that actually is a good segue because the first customers shape a lot. They shape your pricing strategy, customer delivery, your NPS. Just shape what is to come later as a GTM. So how did you uh, define who those, maybe sometimes it just happens by luck or happenstance. So how did you acquire your earliest customers? And some of it you answered just now. But in what ways did they surprise you? Your customer became your channel in ICICI. And maybe for other founders also, you can answer how important is getting that first customer right.
The first customer, definitely initially we did a little bit of PR hype around new banking for new banks coming to India, a little bit around that, and we built our, while the product was being developed, we built a wait list of people who would want to try and use it. We would go into a lot of social media forums and write to customers who would like to try our product. We used Product Hunt and a bunch of other tools. So that's how we created a wait list. And then once the product was ready, we started rolling out the alpha version to 10% of the wait list, and then kept increasing it by every few hundreds over a period of the next 1 month. So that's how the first started out. But then what eventually we were tracking was we didn't expect people to actually use the platform upfront. And we were pleasantly surprised when people moved lakhs of rupees into the virtual account in those days
Mm,
that was created. And then they were using it for doing salary payouts, vendor payments, and all of it. So we were always curious as how come people can trust us to transfer 25 lakhs into this virtual account for doing their payouts, or 30 lakhs used to come in, and they used to do the payments. Another thing we used to track was, okay, money is loaded, now within an hour the money is gone. How do we get them to retain these funds? So oftentimes I used to pick up the call and speak to the customer to try and see, what is a form that would make him keep this money overnight. If I give him an overnight FD or something, will something like that work, or something else? So that was another thing. And then third is the banking channel itself. Banks selling through their sales teams. For a bank to do that, it has to be something that becomes a bank's product. So if that is a channel that's going to get us more customers, almost at one point it was almost a 50-50, our own channels versus through banks,
mm,
the customer acquisition. So somewhere all of these things played together. And sometimes I would say that it also helped us develop that, okay, maybe not just the SaaS based revenue model, which was our initial plan, but probably if you're going to give this to banks, you can have an enterprise revenue model as well. So having those two or three forms of revenue in hindsight, really helped us, because when there was a COVID lockdown and when there was something, we always had another backup revenue channel that was working when something else was not working at that point of time. So somewhere all of these decisions, when you're taking those decisions, you really don't, think of it so much. But it's always in hindsight you go and say that, okay, we took a bold bet to give it to a bank for them to sell it through their channels.
mm,
That was a huge bet for us, because we were like, will VCs perceive us as a technology service provider? But we want to be a fintech company. We want to be a tech company and not a service provider.
mm.
So that fear of getting categorized was definitely there, but that was a bold bet in those days, and it really paid off. Then from there, going on to being the only fintech that SBI worked with for the digital banking for their businesses, for for business, and with Axis Bank, HDFC, Yes Bank, so many other banks that we got to work with in India and now in the global domain as well. So somewhere all of these decisions, somewhere known, somewhere chance that we took, and it paid off eventually. And then there were obviously many decisions that really didn't work and backfired. SaaS in India is still a bad story. So that's definitely a pain point for us.
So, Mabel, that leads me to, of course, when there is a market opportunity, there are many smart founders that start up and might even several of them get funding. So, what makes a particular founding team win when maybe others fail? And at the beginning of the journey, it's not quite obvious. So, from your hindsight and observation, why do you think you and your team and obviously open succeeded where many others didn't. Can we learn anything from that pattern to apply to future as founders, you know?
I would say that we were always guided. We always kept customer as our north star. Whatever made sense for the customer. So if we are saying that this particular feature has to be built, how many of the customers really wanted, go tell them, give it to them, and see how they are observing, how they are using the product. Somewhere customer was at the center of almost all decisions we took. um, we never made a decision saying that, okay, this investor told us like this, so we should do it, or maybe founding team thought like this, so it should be done. Everything that was finally executed on the platform was always kept with the customer at the center as a true north star. Be it revenue decisions, be it marketing decisions, be it how do you what product you want to keep, what you want to kill. Every single one of those decisions was made with the customer at the center. And if somewhere, Y Combinator has this philosophy. I've never been a Y Combinator startup, but I am a true fan of their some of their philosophical thoughts. Build things people want, and that people, knowing who that people is, and keeping them in the focus is has seen many startups succeed and seen many others fail. So for me, that customer at the center is the true learning, or the true key thing to metric to success.
So, there are things that work when you start up in the first 2 years, 3 years. And then sometimes when the company has to kind of be on a jet engine, so to speak, and scale, a lot of times that's another test where founders and startups plateau or fail and eventually figure out, and sometimes not. So, what is it? What are the core either leadership principles or culture of the firm that really allowed you to scale beyond that first customer and the customer first philosophy, the empowerment accountability philosophy you had, but at scale, what has allowed you to scale? Did you have any hiccups, any learnings when you look back on how this can be done with less how should I say, potholes?
Um, I would like to take the culture approach on this, because somewhere building that organization culture really, helped set the guardrails for, keeping this entire, customer centric approach going together. Now, I can stand on the mountain and scream around, we should have a good this culture. We should always think about the customer. And for all you know, everyone will be like, "हाँ Mabel ने वो बोला था, that's why you should do it." But then when you get people to feel that that is what they want to do, when you align them, and this goes back into your hiring process somewhere, your induction training, when someone comes into your company, what do you tell them about what the culture of the organization is one thing that you can show on your PPT. But then when they go back onto the floor, should they do they see the same things? Once they start believing that, they start believing in your purpose, and once they are aligned onto your purpose, then you don't have to constantly go back and check whether your product experience and growth team is doing things correctly or not, or is your first response time met or not, or whether customer happiness is there or not, or whether your what your scores look like. You don't have to constantly go and do that, because somewhere you set that as a guardrail right when someone jumped onto your journey. And you did not do this as a founder, but someone brought this out, and everyone aligned to it, everyone agreed to it. It's something that we all co-created, as this is something that we should be doing in this organization, and hence that ownership went from one hand to the other as the company grew. I would also feel that somewhere the entire ISO process for us as a company, we started when we were a very small team. We were hardly 30 people when we started out the ISO process. So suddenly you have this visitor entry register, lying in your, didn't even have a reception, but now you have this thing that has to be maintained, and it's so painful to go through the entire process. But somewhere, because we went for ISO compliance at that time, almost all the rails that were required for this company to go from a startup team to grow into a company was already set in
Mm,
that compliance process.
mm,
Right. So sometimes painstakingly founders, say that, oh, why the hell, I should do this, so painful. But that pain ultimately helps you in a long way, because then you don't have to imagine, if I was waiting for a mandate, I
mm.
would have been a 500 member organization, and then I would have had to go and do ISO, which would have been extremely painful. It would have been, surgery and recovery and physiotherapy and everything else put together.
Yeah.
But conscious decisions of, going in for an ISO compliance, no one mandated
Mm,
it to us. We just wanted to ensure that the banks see us as someone who is serious about their information security, about client data, because banks had to open up their clients to us, and they needed something to validate. So we proactively did this when we were very small, but then that helped us in the long run, in building the company itself. Yeah, these are two anecdotes that I wanted to share with you.
No, I think very, very meaningful and relevant. Do it today, even if it's painful, because tomorrow it doesn't get any easier. If anything, it compounds. But switching gears a little bit, Mabel, you describe yourself as a poet. So, would you share a favorite line of yours or something that describes what it feels like to be a leader, to be an entrepreneur?
Miles to go before I sleep. Robert Frost, my favorite, poet. And yeah, I was a literature student in one part of my life. I don't know why I did it. I never knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I would have, probably done BCom and taken up commerce, rather than going in for BA. But yeah, I was passionate about poetry. I was very clear that I wanted to, pursue a writing career. It came to me much later that, okay, in the form of content writing, content marketing, much later. But some accidents are good, and poetry anyway remains a part of my life. Now to sing to my twin girls as well.
Well, I want to ask you about that. Uh, you are a new mother with two beautiful twin daughters, and has anything changed in this concept of having it all after you became a mother? Because I've always known you as an extremely hard working entrepreneur, right? And there was work life balance, was really work comes first. I've seen you really put so much into work, and obviously you've achieved a lot, and I'm very proud of that, and congratulations. But now as a mother, right, what has changed?
I don't think anything has changed. I continue to be the same entrepreneur. Anish continues to be the same entrepreneur. In fact, it happened over this weekend. We both were working on, some idea. We were just brainstorming something. Anish was on one side of the bed. I was sitting on a chair on the other side, and both of the babies were lying in bed, and they were. It was almost like they were watching some shuttle badminton match. They're going this way, and then when I would speak, they would look this way, and then Anish would speak, they'll look this way. So it was super fun, because we were having audience to this conversation, to our brainstorming sessions,
Yeah.
and it was really fun watching them getting cues. I don't think anything has changed for us as entrepreneurs. As parents, I think we'll just ensure our kids grow up to become entrepreneurs as well.
Well, let them become whatever they want to become, right? Ultimately, it's that more than anything. But I know you and Anish are doting parents to, as you like to say, the M&Ms. So maybe you want to share your children's names here, so everybody is in on the inside joke.
They called Mirabel and Mireya. Mireya Anish Achutan, Mirabel Annie Chacko. So one to Anish's name and one to my name. And in short, we call them M&Ms.
So cute kids, and it's lovely to see these young babies growing up, and I'm sure it's very fulfilling. I want to ask you, you've been in fintech for a long time, 2 decades or more. So, what's one thing about how Indians, one insight on how Indians relate to money? You know, what surprises you, or just something that's an insight to money.
People have a lot of value for money, but not many of them know how to make money work for them, especially women, working women. And this has always been a question in my mind: why, when you can work so hard, you could be a maid servant for all you know, or you might be someone who is working in a tech company. But when it comes to decisions basis money, why do you always fall back onto some man in your life? Why can't you take a call that, okay, this much amount is in my account and I want to put an FD with it? Why does it always have to go back to, I'll ask my father, brother, husband, son, and tell you tomorrow, right? There's one thing that I tell the girls who work with us as well at Open, that you work so hard to earn your salary. Make sure you spend at least 100 rupees on yourself every month.
Hmm.
I tell this to Renuka, my maid at home as well, my homekeeper. I tell her as well that you spend 100 rupees. It could be just to get a Sprite bottle for yourself, but do that every month so that you feel that there's some worth to why you're slogging so hard and doing making money, right? So that's always been intriguing part. I've seen startups who have been trying to solve this problem, but somewhere they have not. Those startups have also not become completely successful. I was really glad to see Chaitra Chidanand start out Salt as a neobank for women to do, and we used to have her come over and do some sessions for our team as well, so
Hmm.
that knowledge is shared.
Hmm.
But then somehow it didn't really fly so much. And why it didn't? Because it's a very real problem, and
Hmm.
I honestly am intrigued as to why it didn't really work out. Could be various reasons, obviously,
Hmm.
but yeah, I do feel that's a real problem. The way everyone earns money in India, everyone is tech savvy in India, everyone has smartphones, they all have apps where Grow and or ET Money or any of the InWealth or any of those platforms can be
Hmm.
used. They are all these apps have ensured that the UX is simple enough for anyone to use. There are also research labs that work on I don't know why, but research about how women would use the app. Is it going to be different from the way men would use the app? But after all of this, why no success? I mean, why doesn't that change? Why can't finance decisions be made by the person who is earning that money?
I think that's a whole podcast that we need to have separately. It's a topic that I think about and talk about also in circles where I can influence. But it is true, women and financial literacy. But it's not just India, though, it's all over the world.
My mother, you've met my mother, so she's been a banker. So women have been in banking, finance related jobs for
Yes,
such a long time
yes.
that that is not a real problem in India. We don't perceive it as a very big problem. Women do get the respect that they deserve.
But
Uh,
as a woman founder, right, you are still a minority. You're right, women in banking, women in certain fields, medicine, other areas, you know, we have made a lot of progress and we so much that we don't even think about it. But talk about being a women founder in tech. All of us, each of us relate to that in different ways. What my lived reality may be different from your lived reality. But what is your reality of being a women founder?
It has changed and it's a lot better now than from the time I really started. I've had VCs ask me, Ki, what if you get married? What if you get kids? What would what would happen to your career path? What if your husband whom you're getting married to? I think maybe that is why I got married to Anish, okay? Because what if your husband you're getting married to doesn't want you to
Doesn't
be
want
an
you to be a
entrepreneur?
founder.
So maybe that is also something in hindsight. I feel I said yes to marrying Anish, that at least he will not stop me from doing entrepreneurship. Uh, but yeah, it has changed so much and so much for the good. We have women investors, which was not the reality that I started out in, right? When I started on my entrepreneur journey 20 years back, there were not any women investors.
Hmm.
I've also had a VC who actually used to think I'm Anish's secretary. And it's only at the end of the meeting when I gave my card that this person says that, oh, you're a co-founder. And I was like, yes, I'm a co-founder. So,
When
um,
you let these things just, dust off, do they bother you? Does anything bother you?
doesn't bother
You
me.
you seem like a person who's so zen, but I don't know if you have nurtured it, born that way, or
None of
learned
us
it
who
along
faced
the
it,
way.
you ask the Chopasna or any of us who faced this before,
Yes,
none of us think so much about it because we just shrug it off. There's so many other things to bother about than to
yes,
think about
yes,
such petty things. But today, I'm glad to see that there are funds that invest into women founders consciously, and there's more more women coming back and giving back into the ecosystem and becoming investors
mm,
as well. So, you know, the times have really changed and changed for good,
mm,
and much better than the Western world
mm.
that we always fancy so much.
Yeah, and I think that's changing anyway, right? So, one last question for you: what is good advice you have received that you would like to pass on?
Choose your investors like you choose your co-founders. You should know exactly what you're looking for, not just, yeah, everyone is looking for the money, but what else along with your, from the money, apart from the money, what else can that investor give to you? That's something that has guided us in our funding journey at Open. Every investor who came in had a significant part to play apart from the money that they gave us. So be it even Visa, Google, Temasek, Tiger Global, each of these guys came in. 314, Unicorn India Ventures, or any of our investors. Every one of them has added more to our journey apart from the capital they brought in. And we were prudent enough to say that, okay, this is an investor we want on board, and this is an investor that we don't want on board. Many times I reach founders reach out to me saying, I want to connect with XYZ, and I go back and ask them why. I mean, have you done your research as to what that investor does, what his other portfolios are, is there a competing portfolio somewhere, are you okay with your investor having a competing portfolio? Those are things that founders in India are still not completely conscious about. They just go by the brand value of the fund than having a real reason as to why they want that fund on board. So
Of
yeah,
that individual on board, because
fun learning.
people are working with you, not the brand itself.
Yeah.
So, no, this has been an amazing conversation. I've been wanting to have this for a long time. Congratulations on your success, but more importantly, thanks for sharing these gems for others to listen, learn, and apply and pay forward, hopefully. So, thank you so much, Mabel.